Welcome to our lesson on introduction concepts before you start to learn percent proportions. So as we get started, we need to think about what a proportion actually is. So a proportion is two equal ratios. So for example, we could say 1/2 is equal to 2/4. Now if you think about it, these would each be like half of a pizza, so we know that they're equal, which is a proportion, two ratios that are equal to one another. Now the special thing about proportions is that if you weren't sure these were equal, you can actually check something called their cross products. So if we look across, 2 times 2 happens to be equal to 1 times 4. Now this happens every single time with a proportion. Both sides are going to be equal to each other when you cross multiply. So let's look at some other examples of proportions. Another example that you would be familiar with is 3/9 being equal to 6/18. Now normally we can tell that these are equivalent because we're really just multiplying by 2 on both sides. But let's say we didn't know that and we wanted to check whether it was proportional based on their cross products. 9 times 6 should be equal to 3 times 18. And it turns out that they are, because 9 times 6 is 54 and 3 times 18 is also 54. So these are proportional. They're equal to one another. All right, so let's go into some examples where we don't have the full proportion. We're missing some parts. Here's an example. 4/12 equals 8 over something. And when we don't know a number in math, we're going to use a mystery variable. So we're going to use the letter X. If I know that their cross products are going to be equal, the way I would solve this is I would multiply 4 times X, which when we do in algebra, when you multiply two numbers together and one's a variable, you just push them right up next to each other. There's no symbol needed. So 4 times X looks like 4X. 4 times X should be equal to 12 times 8. So this is an equation right here. So we're going to go ahead and solve it for our mystery number X. 4X equals 12 times 8, which is 96. Now, what I need to do here is I need to figure out 4 times what would be 96, because that would help me get my mystery variable. So 4 times what equals 96. Off to the side, I'm thinking, okay, well, I can reverse that by going 96 divided by 4. Now, in algebra, the way that we show that is we show the fraction division sign. We use that fraction bar because it's also a division sign. If I divide both sides by 4, that's going to keep this equal. It's going to keep it balanced, because if I do it to one side, I need to do it to the other. So let's look at our left-hand side over here. 4 divided by 4 would be 1. And then I still have my X equals 96 divided by 4, which is 24. Now 1x, 1 times whatever x is just going to be x by itself. 1x, think about when you're alone, it's just x. So you could either write 1x or just regular x. But we know that the mystery number here that we were looking for should have been a 24. Now that makes logical sense to us because, let me grab a different color. Let's see here. 12 times 2 would be 24, and 4 times 2 would be 8. So it does make sense that the answer here would be 24. Now, some of you guys are probably thinking, why did we do all of this work? I could have told myself that the answer was 24 in the first place. Not all examples are going to be this simple. So let me give you an example of a proportion where the numbers are big and it's a little bit more confusing. 17/29 is equal to 272 over what? Now, this is certainly something that we can't just do in our head. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our knowledge of cross products. This side times this side, 29 times 272, is going to be equal to this side times this side, 17 times x. And remember, when we multiply a number times a variable, we just write them pushed right next to each other. All right, so 29 times 272 is 7,888, which is going to be equal to 17 times our mystery number that we're searching for up here. So 17 times something is going to be equal to 7,888. Now my goal here is to get x by himself because up here in the problem, x is by himself. So what I'm going to do, because this is 17 times x, I'm going to reverse it by dividing by 17. And because this is an equal sign, an equation, I have to do it to both sides to stay equal. 17 divided by 17 is 1. So I'm going to have 1x here. And then on the other side, 7,888 divided by 17 is 464. And now I want to rewrite it so that I can see that my answer for regular x, 1x is just the same as x, is 464. Okay? So the missing number up here was a 464. And you can double check that on your own, that 17 times 464 is in fact the same as 29 times 272. And actually, I'll do it right over here just to show you. So 17 times 464 should be equal to 29 times 272. And if you use your calculator or you do it by hand, both sides are in fact equal to 7,888. So that's how you can check your work to make sure you're correct. All right, so now that you have some of that basic information about proportions and solving proportions, you're going to be able to solve problems with percents using the is over of method. Thanks for watching.